Hello everyone and welcome to Sinful Gaming. I hope you're all doing well, I hope you're all staying safe, and most of all, I hope you're all fighting that war against the Grey. Today's video, we're going to be getting started with Warhammer Age of Sigmar, and today we're going to be looking at the Ogor Mawtribes, in particular the Boulderhead sub-faction. In this video, we're first of all going to talk about what exactly we get with an Ogor Mawtribes Boulderhead sub-faction, and then we'll start looking at what units we should grab first for our first 1000 point army, and then units we can use to expand upon this later as well. Lastly, in the video, we'll show you a little sample 1000 point army list you can use to sort of make your own decisions about how you want to build your army, or indeed copy our army if that's what you wish to do. And so, starting with this all, what exactly do we get with a Ogor Mawtribes Boulderhead army? Well, for starters, we are Ogor Mawtribes, so that means we're going to get all the cool things that come with being an Ogor Mawtribes army. This means we're going to get, first of all, the Great Maw Plot as a terrain piece available to the army, though it's not necessarily always useful with an army that likes to move as much, and also there's no butchers in this particular army that we're going to be talking about, so not that you can't include them, just that they don't sort of fit with anything else that we're going to do in the army. So you can always, I guess, not grab that Maw Plot until one of the last things you need for your army. It's really just an addition in this army rather than something that's actually necessary for the army to function. Other than that, we've got the Trampling Charge ability, which is really cool because Boulderhead focuses on having monsters inside the army. So this means a lot of our monster units are all going to be doing mortal wounds on a 4+ when they charge. When they roll a charge distance, say it's a 7, they get to roll an amount of dice equal to the charge distance. So in this case, 7 dice, every 4 up is a mortal wound when they charge. Great for potentially nerfing and hitting some Unleash Hells. It has some really cool abilities in the game. Grasp of the Everwinter is something we're going to see in a monster-heavy Beastclaw Raiders army, where at the start of the hero phase, roll a dice for each enemy unit within 3 inches of any Beastclaw Raider units, and they can potentially suffer some mortal wounds. You've also got the ability to count as extra models on objectives, and you've also got the hungry and feeding rules as well, which is pretty cool, giving you some extra movement or potentially some extra bravery depending on what you are. Now, on top of that, we are Boulderhead. So this is one of the many sub-factions available to us as Ogor Mawtribes. Fearsome Breed is one of the rules we get, which add once to the wounds characteristic of all our Boulderhead monsters, and also allows us to pick a mount trait for every hero in the army. We've got a particular prayer, Pulverizing Hailstorm, that we get +1 to prayer rolls with, so if you're going for a Huskard and Thunder Tusk, it's an option. And then you've got extra bonuses, all of which sort of benefit your monsters based around the artifact and the command trait available to the hero option of the faction. With that all said, let's get looking at where to begin with this army. And so, where do we begin with this army? Well, my first suggestion is actually going to be picking up a Huskard on Stonehorn. Now, this is entirely the same kit. All the monsters that we're going to talk about in this video are all from the exact same kit. You can build all 6 monster options for Beastclaw Raiders and Ogor Mawtribes from the same kit. So, that's really sweet. It's just picking up the same kit and doing some different variations of it. Now, the reason why I suggest a Huskard first is mostly because points-wise, it's going to be hard to build an initial 1000 point army around your Frostlord. You're going to have to include some non-monsters. And for the purpose of playing a Boulderhead army, and what we're doing in this video, a non-monster army is, monster army rather, is what we're going to want to build. However, if you are okay with having some non-monsters, you could definitely start with the Frostlord and pick some cheaper units to add in there along with. But for me, I reckon the Huskard is pretty sweet. First of all, he's sort of the mid-range one of our monster. He's a hero, but he's not the big hero we've got available. He does some okay damage, and if you get the option to equip him one of the shooting weapons, I always seem to prefer the Blood Vulture. The Mortal Wound ability is, for me, where it's at with the ability, though the other two definitely can do some serious damage. I've had some really good rolls with Chain Traps before. Yeah. We've got the other abilities of a Stonehorn, and this is going to apply to just Stonehorns in general throughout the video that we talk about. We've got the Earth-Shattering Charge, where you add 1 to the damage inflicted by attacks made with this model's Rock-Hard Horns and Crushing Hooves if it made a charge. Stone Skeleton gives it a 5-up ward save. And for the purpose of the Huskard as well, we've got a command ability called Linebreaker, where you can use this, you can pick one friendly Mornfang pack unit within a charge move. So if you do have some Mornfang around and you're choosing to go that route, he can give some extra bonuses to them, add 2 to their damage inflicted by attacks with their tusks instead of 1. So you can definitely make your Mornfang a little bit more punchy on the charge if he's around. But for me, he's in here because he's a pretty solid monster, you know. He's going to get +1 wounds, so he's going to be 13 wounds with a 5-up ward and a 4-up save. That's pretty solid. Beast Riders, for the most part, are just a lesser Huskard. They don't have the hero option, so they can't use any heroic abilities or anything like that. But they do still have the Earth-Shattering Charge and the Stone Skeleton rules as well. They also have the options between a bunch of different weapon options as well. Much like the Huskards, where they can choose either the Blood Vulture, the Chain Trap, or the Crossbow. Blood Vulture always sort of seems to be the way to go, and you're going to get a Harpoon Launcher anyway with them on the back rider. So I think the Blood Vulture Harpoon Launcher is definitely my sort of go-to thing for a Stonehorn Beast Rider. With that said, let's go talk about the other monsters in the army. And so, let's talk about the Thunder Tusk. The Thunder Tusk is the other monster we have available to us in the army, and let's start off talking about the Frostlord. So, we've got the Frostlord on Thunder Tusk. So, the first thing about the Thunder Tusk is they're a little bit more range damage dealing, a little bit more utility than the outright damage dealer that a Stonehorn is. So, for all of the different options for the Thunder Tusk, we've got the Blast of Frost Wreath Ice. We roll an amount of dice equal to the value of the ability. At the start, it's 12. It does degrade over time. And then you roll a number of dice shown. For each 6+, you do a mortal wound to the enemy within range, which is 18 inch, so it's pretty decent range. You also get to add 1 to this if the enemy unit has 10 or more models, and add 2, which is pretty nice. So, you just got an extra +1 there, which is really cool. So potentially doing it on 5s, which is nice. So some mortal wound damage output at range, and then you've got Numbing Chill as well. We subtract 1 from hit rolls for attacks made with melee weapons that target this model, so it's got some inbuilt defense. Frostlords in general, whether this be the one on Stonehorn or Thunder Tusk, both have a 3-up save. That's a big thing. They've also got access to the Frost Spear, so they don't have the other sort of Chain Trap Blood Vulture equipment. They've got a Frost Spear instead, which is 4 attacks, 3 3s, Rend 1, damage 3. So some pretty decent damage out of them. Regardless of which mount he's on, he's going to do some damage. The Bellowing Voice ability, you can use his command ability at the start of your charge phase. If you do so, pick one friendly model with his command ability. Until the end of that phase, you can reroll charge rolls for friendly Beast Claw radio units that are held within 12. So you've got, an army-wide reroll charge command point. And then it's the same one on the Frostlord on Stonehorn. Now going into Huskards. This is where it gets a little bit different because the Huskard on Thunder Tusk is a priest and they have access to prayers. Now you've obviously got the 3 available to them, and Pulverizing Hailstorm, the one we're going to get a benefit to, is just a straight up mortal wound damage dealing, but you also have Healing Prayers ability, and the more Thunder Tusks that are around your priest, the better he is at doing his prayers. Other than that, there's not a lot different between that and the Thunder Tusk Beast Rider. Is just sort of your lesser monster, much the same as how we have all the same rules across the line for the Stonehorns. It's much the same for the Thunder Tusk. They just sort of degrade in the rider themselves rather than the actual mount. The mount remains the same. You do get a little bit less save and a couple of less wounds across the board. But all of these are pretty decent options, and I think it's a really fun army. These are totally an amazing kit to both build and paint. I really enjoyed painting up my Beast Claw Raider army. But let's look at a little sample army list to see how it all can come together. And so this is the little sample army list that we've put together for a 1,000-point starter army of Ogor Mawtribes using the Boulderhead sub-faction. So obviously Boulderhead, Mortal Realm from Gur, for narrative reasons, we're a bunch of monsters, let's play Gur. Grand Strategy, Beastmaster, Army of all monsters. If we've lost all our monsters anyway, we've lost the game, so... And Bloodthirsty is a solid little triumph there to have. This will serve you better while you've got your Huskard as your general, as you generally don't have that reroll. As soon as you switch to a Frostlord as your general, you no longer need Bloodthirsty, and you can straight up switch to Inspired for the +1 to wound. Now, leader-wise, Huskard on Stonehorn is going to be our general just because we haven't got enough points. Now, like I said, you can easily drop one of the battle line monsters if you wish to go with a hero with a bigger hero to fit this in the army. However, I personally just like the all-monster army when I'm playing Boulderhead. And so, he's going to be our general. He's going to have the Blood Vulture. He's got the command trait Lord of Beasts and Artifact Brand as Fard, both of which must be taken because we're playing Boulderhead. The command trait Lord of Beasts is friendly Boulderhead monsters that are wholly within 12 inches of the general at the start of the movement phase can add 1 inch to their move. And then the Brand of Savad, if the bearer has a mount, which he does, you can add 1 to the hit rolls for attacks made with the mount for the bearer. So he's going to have a little bit better of a monster. And then we're also going to go the Metal Cruncher command trait, which is just going to do some mortal wounds to really tough enemy opponents. So how it works is, if we are versing a enemy unit that's either a war machine or an enemy unit with a 4/3 or 2+ save within 3 inches of us at the start of the combat phase, we immediately do d6 mortal wounds to them. So pretty solid. We then have a Thunder Tusk Beast Rider and Stonehorn Beast Rider, and if you're not a fan of Thunder Tusk, you can totally go with 2 Stonehorns here. However, I think in this sort of build, the Thunder Tusk does have its usefulness. The ability to just put out some shooting, potentially deal with hordes a little bit better, is useful. Now, the army does get to be wrapped up in a battle regiment. Because we've got a Beastclaw Raiders General, this does mean that we get to have our Beast Riders as battle line, which is pretty cool. So this means they lose the Behemoth King trait, which means you can have lots of them throughout your army. So this is going to be a fully legal army in a 1-drop. Now, 945 points. As I said, you've got the points in there to totally make 2 Stonehorns. There isn't enough points to get a Frostlord. I tried to see if we could get the 2 Thunder Tusk in there with our Frostlord, and you're just not got enough points, unfortunately. Allies don't know, 36 wounds for 3 models. I mean, that's pretty solid. It is a little bit on the low side, but hopefully you can try and keep them alive. 1-drop. This should be a fun all-monster army for you to rock across the table and play monster trucks with. Well, thank you all for watching. We hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Also, if you'd like to come chat more with me and other members of our fine little community here, you can do so by joining our Discord server, which is linked down in the description of the video. Also, if you'd like to help support the channel more financially, you can do so either by joining our Patreon or YouTube members, of which you'll find both the links of both of them down in the video's description as well. As a special thank you to everyone who does support the channel via Patreon and YouTube members, we'd like to give a shout out to them all. So a special thanks to our Patreons: Christian Weir, James Soren, Greenskins Gaming, AJC, Kenny Lowell, Outer and Shot First, Andrew Bowen, Nathan Fee, The Rising Ape, Cure Dynamic, Agu, Anthony B, Anton Nilsson, JJ Austrian, Average Wargamer, Domir, Mark Harvey, James Cater and Samuel. And a special shout out to our YouTube members as well: Green Roots Gaming, Kenton Young, Chris Rollis, Ronya, Vinny, Lockloric, The Johnny84, David Ellsworth, Revenar, Wolfric Nick, Broken Chef, Sean Scott, DS, and Ariana Edwards. And a special thanks lastly to, first of all, Lady Witchfox Art, who does all the amazing artwork you can see pictured here for the channel. And a special shout out to Xmorphic, who does all the amazing background work for our Discord server. You're both absolute legends. Thank you all for watching once again. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Stay safe, everyone. Stay well. Most of all, keep fighting that war against the Grey. Ciao for now.